the people gave them. The government says we cannot hold anybody in a detention facility. I don't care if their eyes are slanted up or down, or their skin is yellow or brown or red or white or black. It doesn't matter. We, as the United States government, do not have the right, according to this contract, we do not have the right to hold anybody against their will without due process. Due process, writ of habeas corpus. You know what that is? Holding the body or something like that. The government has to produce a writ of habeas corpus, which means the government within 24, 48 hours or whatever, within 48 hours they can arrest somebody, hold them in jail a couple days. But within 48 hours the government has to write it down in paper and give it to a judge and say, we think that they did this and this is what the crime that we're charging them with. This then, and the judge says, held without bond. The judge then says that is in accordance with this, the contract, so you can now hold them because you have a cause to hold them with, and a judge approved it. Now, since World War II, we did it to the Japanese. These were American citizens living in America, born in America, some of them, but because their eyes were slanted and their last name was Nagasaki, we put them in a prison camp and held them against their will. And that was against the contract. And now everybody's saying that the Department of Homeland Security, President Barack Obama, the NSA, the CIA, whoever it is, can arrest you without habeas corpus, without due process, and hold you. See, due process means that even though once you're arrested, you have a right to a quick and speedy trial to see whether you're guilty or not. Under these terms, which they just made up outside of the contract, under these terms, they can hold you until you rot, and they don't have to do anything about it. Here's another one. Yes, Obama claims power to kill Americans on U.S. soil. FBI Director Robert Mueller on Wednesday said he would have to go back and check with the Department of Justice whether Attorney General Eric Holder's criteria for the targeted killing of Americans also applied to Americans inside the U.S. You remember that story, don't you? Okay, the Obama administration and Eric Holder and all the people, don't get on your anti-democratic bandwagon, because this process actually started under George Bush and the Patriot Act, 9/11. See, it's changing all the rules. Patriot Act says, and the Obama administration now says, well, even if they're an American citizen, if we think that they might be a threat to America, we're going to kill them. We have a right to assassinate them. That is outside of the bounds of this contract. Even the President of the United States, he had to do it twice because he messed it up, had to put his hand on a Bible. Can you think about that? That this law and this law always go hand in hand. And where this law is thrown out, this one is soon to follow, people. Mark it down. You know why I've been hammering so hard on the church and what churches are doing? Because when that goes, that's the roadblock that keeps the devils out of America. We're fixing to lose our country. Why? Because we're throwing away our Bibles. The President of the United States, I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear to protect and defend not the people, not the territory, not the national security, the Constitution of the United States of America. His primary obligation is to make sure that the contract is maintained. And now the President says, even if they're an American citizen, if I feel like they're a threat to somebody in Chicago, one of my cronies, I'll have them killed. And it's okay. It's not against my law. Principalities are at work here. And here's something I want to throw in here. This came out by Andrew Breitbart. This was part of the information that he was going to release before he just dropped dead. An American citizen who was a threat to those who didn't like this, and he's dead. Anyway, what Breitbart was going to release was Obama's relationship with a man by the name of Derek Bell. The article says, well, we found it, and it is damaging because Barack Obama was as closer to Derek Bell than he ever was to Jeremiah Wright. Obama didn't merely sit in the pews for Derek Bell. He didn't just hang out with Derek Bell for prayers. He said, open your hearts and your minds to the words of Professor Derek Bell. The article goes on to say, this is a man so extreme that, as we've reported, he wrote a story in 1993 in which he posited that white Americans would sell black Americans into slavery to aliens to relieve the national debt, and the Jews would go along with it. This is the tutelage that, now get this, those who are trained under this know that you can't break this. Those who are trained under the radicals and the socialist and the left-leaning communist and the Marxist and everybody else know that this means nothing. We'll do whatever we want to. That's who trained him. Here's another one. Obama disregards congressional mandate. Barack Obama is setting up a direct confrontation with the U.S. Congress, proposing in his budget for 2013 that the U.S. taxpayers give almost $80 million to a United Nations organization that Congress has banned from receiving any of those funds. The United Nations group was called UNESCO, and Congress said, no more money to UNESCO. Congress, now, listen to this. Congress, according to enumerated powers, has the power to control the budget. The president can send a budget to Congress, but Congress has to approve it. And so Congress has told the president, no more money to UNESCO. The president said, I don't really care what's written and enumerated in this. If I want to send $80 million to UNESCO, why, by golly, that's exactly what I'm going to do. You see where we're at right now? See where it starts? Those in the pulpits who say, well, I don't care what the Bible says. I'll say this, and God told me this, and I don't care what this, that was old, this, we don't have to follow that anymore. Listen, this is the contract that God made with us, and we agreed to it. And now we're saying that we don't want to follow it anymore. Well, guess what, America? You raised up the preachers, and now you have the politicians to pay for it. Because now we have politicians all over the country who say, we know that this is a contract between us and the American people, but we're not going to abide by it. That's what they're saying. It starts with the White House, moves down into Congress. Here's another one. Get this. Now, let me go back and find this verse here. Where is it? Oh, where? Where is that verse? Oh, let's see here. It is, where did I put it? It had to do, you know, with the money grabbers. Here we go. Isaiah 1:23. The princes are rebellious and companions of thieves. Everyone loveth gifts and followeth after rewards. Let me ask you, what do you think motivates most, okay, practically all, of what bills ever see the floor of the United States House of Representatives or the Senate? What do you think motivates that? Where do you think they come from? Who writes these bills anyway? Do you ever ask that question? Who writes them? Okay? Just remember that the Bible will tell you, we don't get to sit in the junkets, you know, where the corporations are buying the seats on the plane and the 3-night vacation at the resort. For the congressmen, we don't actually get to sit at the table, but the Bible will tell you what's going on. Thy princes are rebellious and companions of thieves, and everyone loveth gifts and followeth after rewards. So, now remember, this starts out with we the people, the little guy. Okay? Congress has now turned into, you know, whatever GE wants, whatever General Motors wants, whatever IBM wants, whatever Bill Gates wants, whatever. Why? Love of money. The gift, rewards. Highway bill amendment defeated that would have sent billions to Soros, Pickens, and Douglas companies. The Senate Tuesday killed legislation to spend billions of taxpayer dollars to encourage companies to use natural gas-powered vehicles. The legislation also would have benefited wealthy backers of the Democratic measure, including George Soros, T. Boone Pickens, and Kevin Douglas. Do you get it? You get it? Let's see. 3 guys here who had companies that was going to benefit into the billions of dollars if this bill was passed. Who wrote the bill? Who paid off the senators to vote for it? You see how it works? They're walking outside of the contract. It's not we the people anymore. The government now belongs to the businessmen, and the businessmen now belong to the government, and they know it. You know what that's called? Fascism. Fascism is a conglomeration of government and the mercantile or the merchandising people of that country, the big businesses. Okay? That's fascism. When they're all working together. And you poor people out, we'll give you a job, don't worry. You hear the politicians going, we're going to create jobs for you. And it's only going to cost the taxpayers trillions of dollars that we don't have. What happened to the America where we said, we'll get our own job. We'll make our own way. We'll plow our own field. We'll make our own products, and we'll be okay. It's outside of the contract. Here's another one. Justice blocks voter ID law in Texas. The Justice Department is objecting to a new photo ID law in Texas for voters, saying the state has failed to demonstrate that the law is not discriminatory by design against Hispanic voters. Stop right here. Let me tell you what this is. Okay? Texas, now voting. Think about it. Voting. Corruption. Is there corruption in voting? Yeah. Texas says, you know what? We want to clean this up a little bit. Because we have a contract with the citizens of the United States of America, but not with anybody who is not a citizen of the United States. That's how simple this is. If you're in this country and you're not, what do they say, documented, it's illegal. If you're in this country and you're not supposed to be in this country by rights, then this document does not apply to you. Just because you snuck across the border does not mean that you get to vote. Doesn't mean that. So Texas says, you know what? Really, only citizens should have a right to vote, and we should have the right, as the state of Texas, to determine at the voting procedure who's a citizen and who's not. Simple as that. How is that done? Well, we have a process called a photo ID. Even if you don't drive a vehicle, you can go down to the Department of Motor Vehicles and say, I don't want a driver's license, I don't drive, I can't, but I would like a government-sanctioned official identification. And the government says, well, we need... The government says, we need a birth certificate, buddy, and if you don't produce a birth certificate, you can't get a license. See, that's it's in the contract. Okay? And so Texas said, we just want to enforce the law that says you show up to vote, show them your driver's license. When I vote in my county, I have to pull out my driver's license. I have to show them that I live in that county, I'm a resident, here's my address, I am an American citizen, I have given proof of my birth certificate or my certificate of citizenship. I've given proof. I have a right to vote, according to the contract. Justice Department says, that is going to discriminate against people. No, the only ones that it's going to discriminate against are the people who are not signers of the contract. I mean, stop and think about it. Let's say that you went to a car dealership. You go to a car dealership, you fork out $5,000 down payment. You're going to be on the hook now for a $500 a month car payment over the next 72 months because these cars are real expensive now. Okay? You buy this car, you sign the contract, you give them part of the money, you're on the hook now for the rest of that bill. They turn around and give the keys of your vehicle to somebody that just walked in off the street. But we signed a contract. Well, I'm changing the contract. I like this guy better. You keep paying for it, by the way. See how it works? Boy, we're in trouble. Here's another one. Civil libertarians slam McCain's cybersecurity bill. Cybersecurity bill introduced by Republican Senator. See, it's not just these guys. It's these guys, too. John McCain could dramatically expand the domestic reach of U.S. intelligence agencies and potentially give them massive troves of emails, civil liberty unions, advocates said. Let me tell you what this is, okay? This contract that we agreed to, that the government agrees with us, and we agree with the government, this contract, because the British soldiers had a knack for just kicking doors in, rifling through your papers and effects to see if you had written anything that was defamatory to King George.